Hey, what's going on there, everybody? This is Samuel Leggett here representing Team JVS. Here you guys, another movie review, and this is a sequel to the hit film, The Accountant with The Accountant 2. They doubled down on the action, they doubled down on the engagement and interaction of our main character, played by Ben Affleck, Christian Wolff himself, and now his brother Braxton are teaming up together to do God knows what. But I'm gonna go and give you guys a breakdown of what I thought about this film. So first off, the first one was one of my favorites as soon as it came out. I think that the way that Gavin O'Connor directs in general, like I've loved the majority of his films, starting with I think Pride and Glory. Then The Warrior was just amazing. He's worked with Ben Affleck recently again with the way back in 2020, but I think The Accountant came out in around 2016. So it's been roughly almost 9 years. So a lot of people did not think that this was going to actually happen. And so when it did, I was like, oh my gosh. But one of the things that happened with our Christian Wolff in the beginning, he was just a general accountant, and he was just trying to make things better for people, but you could tell he was a little bit socially awkward. You could tell that he wasn't looking people directly in the face. And then you slowly got to understanding that he is autistic, but that did not inhibit or keep him from being as proficient at whatever he does as anybody else. And matter of fact, it gave him a head advantage. That was one of the reasons why I thought that, with Ben Affleck's performance in general, I mean, of course, I loved him collaborating with everybody he's around. Like, I mean, Anna Kendrick and, of course, John Bernthal toward the ends of that film, establishing he had a brother. And I mean, it was John Lithgow. There's so many good actors that were in that film that worked along with Ben Affleck very well. But Ben Affleck, with his mannerisms, with the physical and vocal stemming, with his inability to be able to find recourse when it comes to certain things that it went over his head, his communications, everything about his performance was on brand, on target. And so when they talked about the idea of taking, that concept and bringing in his brother, especially at the end of that film, I thought that was very conceptually interesting. And I just didn't know where they were going to go with it. Now, at the time that I watched the movie in 2016, I did not have any children at that time. 2018, I had my oldest son. His name is David. And, having watched the film later on over the years, I kind of was like, oh man, this is really intriguing. I love it. And my son, David, he ended up getting diagnosed with autism. David is the love of my life. He, on top of being very smart and inquisitive, he does have autism. He also have a very strong capacity for learning, tinkering, puzzles, everything you can think of. As far as verbally stemming, physically stemming, those are things that most people that are autistic also have to deal with. Now, this is the reason why this film is going to be very biased, and the reason why it took me very long to actually watch and review is because I do find this very personal, impressionable. I do look at the certain social mannerisms of how Braxton and his brother interact. And I think, honestly, I'm going to use this picture as a segue example of why this is actually the perfect amalgam of an action film, but great representation at the same exact time. This picture right here tells a lot. You see, Braxton is looking directly at his brother, laughing, engaging, because over the years, and again, this is me helping you guys out to internalize the way I connect with this, and the way that Gavin, Ben, and John internalize the severity and importance of making sure this is established in this community, right? Ben Affleck is not looking at directly at his brother. He's looking at the side of his eye at his brother and looking towards somewhere else. Is he distracted or honed in or focused on something else? He may be, but at the same time, his brain is also directly focused at whatever Brax is saying. Is he laughing with him? No. Is he engaged with him? Yes. And the difference with this, with a normal person, that would be in Braxton's state, he knows his brother is eating all this up. He knows his brother is focusing in on it. And he has to laugh for himself. He has to engage and communicate with himself at times because his brother doesn't necessarily at times have those social cues or abilities to be able to make that distinction, or sometimes will not give him the exact response back. That is exactly the truth. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, my oldest David has a younger brother. His name is Sammy, and Samuel is as engaging and is inquisitive and funny, but he also is very much so loves his brother, very much so is a tinkerer, but he is the comedian. He is all impulsive. He's all over the place. And if you look at this is the same exact thing that's going on right here. My oldest David is in the balls, socially stemming it up and loving this moment, whereas his younger brother's like, yo, David, let's go. We're going to jump in these balls. Like, it's a complete different distinction, but absolutely love each other. But then at the same time, they have to be able to learn to be able to navigate amongst each other. I'm going to show you guys a little video later on, but I wanted to give you guys a pause because there are things about this film that I'm going to connect with different than anybody else. So this is truly a biased review. I will give you guys my clear distinction from a critic's perspective on the things that they're different from the first one, the second one. But make no mistake, this is one of my favorite films because of how well the representation is in this. And I give all the credit to John and Ben. They understood the assignment. There are moments in this film that John Bernthal's character, he's having an existential crisis, literally, because he's trying to connect with a person because he doesn't understand social cues as well. He deals with the same exact awkwardism because he grew up with his brother. That's not to put anything down because he's well established. He's got the money, he's got the skills, he's got the forte, but that doesn't mean it keeps him from having the same exact social cues that a regular person would have because he had to be built up in a different way. And that moment in the movie where he's trying to get, I think, a dog or something like that, and he's trying to work himself up to it, worked himself up, talked himself all the way through all these different devices, because normally you talk that through with somebody else or with your dad, and in the first movie you already established that the mother walked out on them. Dad was very much trying to figure out how to navigate these two boys, and he was not going to give them the slack. And so he really only had just his brother, and those moments of being able to communicate and understand, he may not have had that. And so he had to be able to talk amongst himself. And at times that's why he's so chatty. And that is, as funny as the scene is, that's what I pulled from that, right? So going into the actual film, sorry, I apologize, but there's a clear way that I wanted to make sure I did a review on this because I wanted to make sure you guys understood that I'm appreciative of how they handled this. I am deeply connected with this because of my family, because of my children. So anyway, going into all this. So the film itself, there's a clear distinction difference between the first one and the second one. This very much so feels a little bit more buddy cop. There are moments where when the action is on and you're seeing these brothers take down, oh, it is so precise. It is excellent. But then there are moments where you have like Affleck's character, Christian, is doing like a dating reel. Like he's going through a dating game that looks professional. Everybody's ready up for him. But then he's socially awkward. He's being very much so a perfectionist. He's fixated on something. And once you, unfortunately, maybe deal with fixation for a period, you either one start stemming or two, you start going into a kind of a pitfall. And it's either one, somebody's going to break you out of it, or two, you're just going to keep going and going and going. And a lot of times it puts people off. And that's exactly what was happening to him. It wasn't his fault. He was trying to get himself out there. But I did love how they kind of turned that around later on. Now, in the film, when he does meet up with his brother, it's because something has unfortunately happened to one of his former colleagues. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because they entered in a new player into the game. And the crazy thing is about this actress, she's a good actress. She's really good actress. I first saw her in The Vampire Diaries, right? And she this is Daniella Pineda. She's playing a role of Addai. When she shows up and she meets up with J.K. Simmons in the very beginning of the film, like I was kind of like, what in the world? Who is this character? But as the story progresses and you get an understanding of what she's capable of, you also dive into other levels of what it means to deal with mental instability and also trauma, and also like just natural psychological imbalances that people have to deal with as well. There are different distinctions between John, Alana, and Christian. John's character Braxton is dealing with understanding how to be alone while also at the same time also trying to be the best brother and person that he can be in the midst of what he's actually physically doing in real life. Anas's character is dealing with severe trauma that has boiled into something completely different. And then Christian, we know who Christian is from what the accountant is. He is very firm, and there are certain things that, I mean, even if you know or don't know, there's a level of fixation that kind of happens, but it's psychological. There are certain things that he needs to finish, and he's not just saying it. There are things that have to be actually finished or done, or he cannot let it go. He cannot move forward. And that's the reason why, even when you see that the first movie, when he's going and trying to work through, the whole entire filing system of how things work, you see that. There's another moment in this movie that he does that with a wall that had bare nothing. He takes care of it in less than a night, but that's because he has to finish it. It's not because it's a challenge to him. It's because it actually allows him to kind of move forward. So yeah, no, I love so many different scenarios they put with dealing with those different aspects of the film that if you really weren't paying attention, you really wouldn't know or understand. The other thing is I love how they handled J.K. Simmons in this film, because you show like a person coming off the first one and what Christian did for him to where he has to kind of become, what he's made himself to become. And then it also translated over to certain other characters as well, like Cynthia Diaz's character, Mary Beth Medina. She's given a lot in this episode, in this movie. And they definitely use her very well. I would love to see them do a little bit more. But I love how they handled the progression of her character in this film. As far as the action is concerned, the stunt choreography and the different locations and how they handled a lot of it, it was really well. It was top notch. Like I was all the way in for all the action. And I think the reason why the action was built up so well, it's not just Christian and Braxton going and stopping people. Like there was a reason. There was lives on the line in this one. There was actual stakes. This movie versus the first one. The first one didn't have true stakes, because I never felt that it was a situation where Christian couldn't take everything out if needed be. The stakes in the first one is his mental stability and him being able to regulate his emotions. If he couldn't regulate this, so try to best I can to kind of help you out. In the beginning of the first movie, when you see him taking music on and using like a wooden thing to roll over, those are different levels of auditory stimulation, physical stimulation, and then also sensory input. That's why the lights were going on. When he was having a moment and he was kind of breaking out of it, that's when you saw him start to, it seemed like a tantrum, but that's really him like not being able to regulate his emotions sufficiently. Now, they don't go into that in this, but there are moments where you see this clash in this issue that happens with Braxton and Christian, because their inability to truly connect in the way that they would like to, but they figure out ways of handling it and dealing with it. And I think that they handled that really well. Do I think that I would have loved a little bit more time with certain characters? I would. I think Medina, as much as they gave her a lot of time, I really wanted to see her character kind of progress in a different direction. But I do think that there's room for a lot more, and I honestly, I'm hoping for even more of these. The character, like I said, that was introduced, Anais. I would love to see just a spinoff just on her character alone. I'm not sure if that was the intent, but man, Yeah, I would love to see more of what they could do with her character. But yeah, I think the difference with the first one and the second one, it's whereas you would have like Christian Wolff be the protector of Anna Kendrick's character, and then also bringing down the circumstance while also like finding his brother again. This one is more so about cohabitation and finding a purpose in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of what you're dealing with, in the midst of family, like figuring out what that actually means. And yeah, man, for me, the down moments where it was kind of like more buddy, more comedy, where it was more like action centric versus like emotional, like imbalance and misregulation. Like there's even a bar brawl that happens, and you're thinking like, Christian's about to break down. Like he's like, oh yeah, my brother's about to go and take care of work. Like and as best as he could to laugh and find intrigue. Like there's even a moment at the end of the movie where he forces himself to truly engage with his brother. It's not because he didn't want to or doesn't care. And that's one of the things that's a clear distinction if you don't know. If you have somebody that is dealing with either high level autism or mid, there are different moments where it seems as though they just really don't care. They're not paying attention, but that's quite the opposite. They are hearing, engaging everything in their mind, and they're trying to be able to process it, and at the same time not, because it may be too much, it may be too loud, it may be too confusing, it may be that they can't verbally speak, they might be nonverbal, and it's even more hard to articulate what they need or want, and that's even more added to frustration. So there's different levels to kind of how they handled this in this film. And that's why I was fine with the comedy. I was fine with doubling down on the action. I was fine with just as long as you keep the authenticity of who the characters are, because it's just a different stage. This wasn't meant to be what the first one was. This was to try to continue to see how these characters now exist within themselves. And they ask some hard questions. There are some emotional moments. And John Bernthal and Ben Affleck are pros. They're able to handle anything that they really need to. So for me, I really love this, man. Like this is a 9 out of 10 for me. I'm gonna show you guys one more thing, just for you guys. Hopefully, you guys take a little bit out of it. But this is literally Braxton and Christian, in my opinion. So here you go. Just like Braxton's just all over the place doing his own thing. Like it kind of equates me to when Braxton knocks somebody off the multiple floor building, and like Christian just sitting there just looking like, oh crap. And like that is absolutely both of my sons, and I love them so much for that. And this movie, yeah, no, even when I go back and rewatch the original one, I can't help but look at my kids and be like, oh, I mean, not that I want them to be soldiers or nothing like that, but seeing them being able to cohabit and exist together is, I mean, yeah, I would love that. Like it's imperfect as it is and different as it is. I'd absolutely connect with it, and I appreciate it. And again, I think this is publicly the first time I'm actually opening up about this. But I do want to raise awareness in a specific way, specifically with a movie like this, as well as they handled it. And so I think that if you have a family member, or brother, or a dad, or children, or nieces or nephews that are on the spectrum, and then you also they have a sibling, or even if you're there alone and you're trying to assess what that actually means, like if you just decided, to put them in a box, do know that their capacity or brain power capacity may exceed what we can be able to gauge or do. They compartmentalize a lot differently, but at the same time, don't not challenge them. Don't not look at them as what they can be as opposed to what your perception is. And I think that the social awkward side of it, that maybe they may not give you a high five, they may not go and focus and hone in on what you're saying, but if you continue to try to push and press, you never know. I have my oldest in Taekwondo right now, and he goes and gives the teachers a high five. He goes and can sit and engage because you're giving them something to focus on and to hone in on. And I think for the translation of what that means for the dad, he gave them focus, he gave them military, he gave them a directive. And if there's a directive, there's something you can do. It's more so about regimen. Once you have a regimen of a schedule, just so you don't get off that schedule, something happens, that's where it get a little hairy. But if you give them focus, give them something to do, you never be surprised what their capability is and what their capacity is. I absolutely fully believe that my oldest can literally do anything. And that's part of the reason why I love this franchise. More than at the time, it was just like a cool action movie that I just really didn't understand or comprehend. But now I absolutely safeguard these two films now with my life. Because I actually see elements of it with my own children. But anyway, 9 out of 10 for The Accountant 2. Again, completely biased. There's probably things that you guys can try to pick apart about it, but not for me. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this review. Got a little bit more deeper than I thought I was going to be, but hopefully you guys appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, people.
Falling out the top of I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind.